first time I've kind of done something like this, and I haven't presented something using a PowerPoint. I don't know, gosh, in like 5 years or something. So forgive me if I'm a little bit rusty, but Prism is something that I've been super excited about since like June of last year when I first heard about it, and I've just been keeping up with what's been going on in the tech ecosystem. And earlier this year, around January, February, the founder finally approached me and he said, he'd love to have me on board and to really launch this thing. So I got a chance to join full time. So now I can consider myself like, I don't know, like a full-time crypto DeFi degen. And other than my work at Prism Protocol, we support the community on the Terra blockchain mainly through GT Capital, where we do a bunch of little small community projects like creating job boards or creating websites, decentralizing other website front ends. So if anything goes down, like you guys can use our front end for like Mirror or other protocols. But yeah, like that's me like in a quick nutshell. I've only been in the DeFi space for less than a year now, but man, it feels like years have kind of passed by for me. So I guess like for this next part, this video that we had done gives you like a really nice overview, succinct overview of what Prism Protocol is in about 3 minutes or so. And it's really slick animation, so I hope you guys enjoy this one, and it will give you like a really good overview of what we're about. I'm gonna click play now.
Decentralized finance, or DeFi, is full of risks, compromises, and complexity. Volatile prices, fluctuating yields, liquidation risks, long unstaking periods, inability to choose between price exposure and yield. In traditional finance, users can mitigate these risks by moving between fixed and floating yields or exchanging future amounts in one currency for another. The market for such products is worth around $600 trillion. DeFi users share the need for tools that allow them to shift seamlessly between options. Prism enables this composability. Prism is an innovative protocol that creates new asset classes in DeFi, allowing users to manage risks and speculate on price and yield in a simple, capital-efficient manner. Prism achieves this by refracting digital assets into two distinct components, yield and principal. For the first time, users can choose whether to maximize exposure to price or to yield with no risk of liquidation, or whether to maintain two liquid tokens with enhanced composability. How does Prism accomplish this? Take the following use case. Let's say Alice holds Luna tokens. She deposits them into the Prism vault, where they are immediately staked, earning rewards and airdrops. In return, she receives C Luna tokens, which represent her ownership of Luna in the vault. Alice can use Prism to refract her C Luna tokens into P Luna and Y Luna tokens. The P Luna tokens represent the principal that Alice has in the vault and offers leveraged exposure to Luna's price with no risk of liquidation. The Y Luna tokens give Alice the right to receive all staking rewards and airdrops of the Luna tokens in the vault. These two tokens open up a world of opportunities for Alice. She could deposit her Y Luna into one of the vaults and start claiming airdrops and staking rewards with one simple click and reinvesting. She could swap her Y Luna for more P Luna, maximizing her exposure to Luna's price, or swap P Luna for Y Luna to maximize her exposure to Luna's yield. Alternatively, Alice can provide liquidity on an AMM to start earning fees and incentives, or deposit her Y Luna or P Luna in money market protocols to earn incremental yield. If Alice wants to convert her P Luna and Y Luna back into Luna, she can do so on the AMM, or instead merge her Y Luna and P Luna in Prism to mint C Luna. Finally, Alice can either swap this C Luna for Luna on the AMM, or use the C Luna to reclaim her Luna from the Prism vault, triggering Luna's 21-day unstaking period. Now let's look at the Prism token. Prism is the base asset of all liquidity pools, enabling swapping between any two tokens in a maximum 2 steps. To participate in decentralized governance, Prism tokens can be used to mint X Prism. Prism enables voting on important proposals to decide the future of the protocol. Prism is a compounding token. Fees charged by the protocol are converted to Prism and distributed into the Prism pool. Prism is a liquid token and can be used as collateral to borrow, lent out, or to provide liquidity on the AMM. In the future, Prism will refract many tokens, from large layer 1s to high APY farms. You'll also be able to choose from multiple maturities, enabling you to guarantee the yield you receive. Prism enables the ultimate in DeFi composability. Welcome to DeFi 2.0.
All right, sweet. Yeah, so we had this done right before the launch of the protocol, and oh man, it was like it got a lot of good feedback on the Twitter sphere, and I think it gave people such a good idea on exactly what we can offer at Prism. So
Decentralized finance, or DeFi.
next slide. Okay, yeah. So one of the things that the video alluded to early on was that the problem in the market size that Prism is kind of playing in is incredibly large. So this chart comes from, I think it's BLS, some of the some of the numbers for interest rate derivatives in 2021. And you'll see here that in this kind of magenta-ish color, you have IRDs, which are interest rate derivatives, and the notional value of this market for splitting traditional like yields apart from the principal, the underlying principal. This is a pretty large market in traditional finance. Currently, it's just around like 500 trillion or so. And in context of DeFi and crypto, like that is just ginormous, right? And for us at Prism, we're starting to just tap into this market, and we're enabling these products in the DeFi world, doing it completely decentralized, without banks, without any kind of middlemen, and we're starting with Terra Luna itself. With Terra Luna itself, and then like what you saw in the video as well, that we're starting with Luna, and it all started with our founder Hyperion. He spent his entire years in his career as interest rate. What do you call it? Just like in the interest rate market, and he was doing this for bigger clients, for other banks, and it's just so perfect that he happens to discover Terra, discover Luna, discover UST, and he had just the inkling to reach out to Do Kwon sometime last year. And he reached out to him with his idea of like, hey, I want to build this protocol called Prism. I've done this my whole life, my whole career in traditional finance, and I want to do this in a completely decentralized and in the crypto world. Luckily, between Do Kwon, Terraform Labs, and some other partners you'll see here, Hashed and Jump, all the Giga Brains kind of just put all their efforts, sweat, tears together and built this protocol. And we've done it all without the need for any kind of like venture capitalist money. So this was all just bootstrapped from these three companies here. Cool. Oh, slide full screen. Is it not full screen already? Let me see. I think this is the best I can do, but let me see. Yeah, sorry, it doesn't give me any. For me, it's already showing full screen. Okay, cool. Let me just go to the next one. So it's been roughly around 2 months since our launch. I can't even believe it's only been 2 months. It just feels like, I don't know, years have gone by. But in those short 2 months, we've gone through a few phases of our launch, and currently right now we're sitting just shy of 650 million total value locked in our protocol, and that's split between the Luna that people have come and refracted and used on our protocol. We've got roughly 60 million in our liquidity pools, and we've got roughly 40 million or so of our native governance token Prism and X Prism staked. As far as like refracted tokens, we've got, like you see, most of our TVL is from people who have joined refracted Luna, and it's sitting a bit over 500 million or so, and that translates to about, I think we're just shy of 6 million Luna that's been refracted. And we're just a small portion of all the Luna that's currently staked on the Terra Luna ecosystem. I think it's like 340, 320, yeah, right, 340 million Luna so far has been staked. So even though this can seem like a large number to us for just being around for say 2 months, but we have a large and lofty goal ahead of us to capture more of the Luna that can be refracted. And just from our liquidity pool of 6 million, currently 60 million UST or so, we're currently the third largest DEX on Terra. First and foremost is going to be Astrocord. Number two, I believe, is still TerraSwap. And then we come in third with 60 million UST. And because of all of the arbitrage opportunities and all of the pairs that we have on our protocol, we roughly do around, I think, like 6 million per day, or 50 million every single week in swap volumes. Yeah, in terms of like all that volume, all that TVL, we really designed the protocol to have tons and tons of value capture. And these are just like a few of the main ones so far right now. So currently all of the staked Luna, we currently take around 10% of the staking fees if you have it staked. If you don't have it staked, the protocol actually takes 100% of those fees. So if anyone's familiar with like other protocols on Terra, we have Anchor, we have like B Luna and other B assets, where if you decide to provide liquidity with these B assets, you actually are supposed to earn some UST, or someone is supposed to earn and claim some UST, but it's just like lost in the ether because the tokens weren't set up to claim the yield from unstaked tokens. And the way that we've done it is that, if the tokens are unstaked, we're actually still able to capture all that yield. And I don't think there's any other protocol on Terra that's able or has done this thus far. And it's actually been quite a big revenue driver for us. So all of the tokens that are in our liquidity pool that usually you wouldn't be able to earn any of the yield on, we're able to capture that and bring that value back to the Prism and our X Prism holders. So from another bit of a source of income for us is the swap fees. So from every single swap that happens on our protocol, the 50 million odd volume that we get every single week, 0.1% of those go back to buying Prism. And then finally, we're actually launching this here pretty soon. We're enabling limit orders on our DEX, and going to be opening this up to other DEXs on Terra pretty soon as well. So 0.1% of all limit orders that are set will be able to, those fees are going to be generated and go back to Prism and X Prism holders. I think this is going to be like something pretty interesting, since right now there's not many limit orders or a lot of nice tools, like maybe at Bybit or maybe at other centralized exchanges. You guys have really nice tools that allow your users to essentially buy the dip or be able to sell and do a lot of automations that don't require you to actually be in front of your computer. But on Terra Luna ecosystem, we don't really have that right now. If you want to buy, you want to swap something, you have to do it manually. So we're bringing like this nice little service to the ecosystem, and then kind of graphed out just the daily revenue that we're generating from all the TVL and all the value capture that kind of just spoke about. Currently, we're sitting roughly around 15,000 UST or USD per day. So still blows my mind that in just a couple months, we have a protocol that's generating, say, $5.5 million a year in fees. Yeah, it's just like a bit insane. So I think this next slide here will kind of go into, yeah, exactly like where all these fees are going to, right? So all these fees are going to buying back Prism off the market and distributing it to the governance stakers, which is X Prism token holders. And really, I think like the community has really resonated with our mission and what we're trying to do here at Prism and the market that we're trying to tackle, such that another little tidbit that just like I still can't believe is like 88% of all of our tokens that have been emitted is just sitting in our governance and earning the governance fees. And even though 88% of it is staked, it's generating enough fees that if you hold one X Prism, you're earning a nice little 16% APR every single year so far. I think, yeah, we have like this little chart here. It's been steadily going down as we have more and more X Prism that, you know, is sharing all the fees, but it's still pretty healthy considering we only have one bit of our roadmap that's been launched, and there's plenty of stuff that we have left to do. But before we get into some of the roadmap and some of the alpha bits, I wanted to chat about a little bit about like more of the tokenomics, more around Prism and more around X Prism. So I think we did a few unorthodox things on the Terra ecosystem. So I think when people first started on the Terra ecosystem, maybe like last year around like February, March, around this time last year, really there was only like Mirror and Anchor. And to get people into the ecosystem, we were doing a lot of airdrops. A lot of protocols were doing airdrops. Everyone was announcing airdrops. And that's something that on the Cosmos ecosystem that you really came to expect, where if you staked Atom, if you staked Luna, if you staked, you know, Anchor, you were expecting to get an airdrop. But we noted that as other protocols started launching, like Pylon, like Starterra, just like these other altcoins on the Terra ecosystem, it was hard for them to compete against Luna, the token, right? Like the apex asset that is the layer one. A lot of altcoins really suffered from the fact that people were just farming their token, farming their airdrops, and just selling it and accumulating more and more Luna. So there was a quite, you know, stretch of time where all the altcoins on Terra was doing super bad. And when we looked at the analytics and the data around airdrops, we found that really like maybe the Genesis airdrop got attention and it got people to come and use your protocol. But afterwards, like these ongoing weekly airdrops from Mirror or ongoing weekly airdrops from Anchor, people were just dumping them, or like it was so little that you weren't even claiming them. So really, it was like all of these wasted token emissions weren't really doing anything for your protocol. And because of you know some of these data points, we decided not to do an airdrop. Um, and the community gave us, you know, for about like a few days, maybe a week, we got pretty bad backlash on Twitter for not providing any kind of airdrop. But we said, you know what, like we're not going to reward past behavior, but we'll reward future behavior, and we'll reward people who decide to use our protocol on come and refract Luna and, you know, learn what we have to offer and what we're bringing to the ecosystem. And that's what we kind of introduced with this Prism Farm. And I'll go into that in a bit, but just to backtrack another thing that we've done that was a little unorthodox is that currently none of our liquidity pairs have any kind of incentives. Um, most protocols that launched in the past, they had pretty significant like liquidity mining incentives for all of their governance tokens paired with UST, right? They want people to trade, they want to have thick liquidity, so they emitted quite a lot of tokens for that. Um, and yeah, it might be good in the beginning, so you'd be able to farm a lot of tokens, and you might feel like you made a lot of money early on. Um, but long term, it was pretty negative for the protocol since they would attract essentially just mercenary capital that came in and farmed and dumped and just left in a couple of months. All right, so we decided that, hey, we're going to be very strategic in how we're going to be uh, like emitting our tokens, and we want it to be uh, net positive for the protocol. If we're giving away one prism, we want to be able to generate, two, three, five times in revenue when it comes back. So the first time that we emitted any of our tokens was in what we call the Prism farm. So usually, when users will come to our protocol and they would refract their Luna, right? They'll refract it into the P Luna and then they'll refract it into the Y Luna. They could stake it in like our normal Y Luna staking um, page, and it would just give you exactly what you expect from staking Luna. It would give you your airdrops. It would give you your staking yields in Luna. But with our Prism farm, what we've done is like we said, hey, you know what? Here's the trade-off. You can stake your Y Luna with us, give the protocol in exchange for your staking yield, we'll give you Prism tokens instead, right? And we essentially set aside 13% of all the Prism tokens. So it's quite a significant amount. Over the course of 1 year, people could essentially stake and get Prism tokens, and this drew a lot. The majority of the Luna that you see refracted and that has come to the protocol has come for this Prism farm. Um, yeah, has come for this Prism farm. I think like of the 6 million Luna that's been refracted, maybe like 4.5, 4.7 of that 6 million is sitting inside the Prism farm, earning these Prism tokens. And like earlier when I mentioned that, we have 88% of these tokens staked, like I thought this number would have gone down by now. We've been emitting these Prism tokens, but people have really been claiming the tokens and restaking and earning more and more of getting more larger share of this X Prism, and that's because mainly of this mechanism that we implemented called AMPs. I don't think definitely we were the first one on the Terra ecosystem to introduce AMPs, and I think like maybe gosh, I want to say like through all of 2021, we didn't have very intricate or interesting tokenomics on the Terra ecosystem. Most of it was like the governance token was kept very separate from the utility of the protocol itself. And that's something that we wanted to kind of like cross-pollinate, right? So we were worried that people would come and do exactly like they've done with all these other protocols where, they don't really care about holding the native governance token of what they're farming. They just want to farm it and dump it and buy more Luna, right? So the way that we kind of design AMPs, some, um, we took some, what do you call it? Inspiration from the platypus model on Avalanche, where they were a stablecoin exchange that essentially gave you boosted rewards if you not only participated in the protocol, but you also held their governance token, right? So that's exactly what we did with the Prism farm. We said, hey, you know what? We're emitting like 13% of the tokens, but we're going to reserve a section of that specifically, we said we're going to reserve 20% of all rewards to go to people who hold X Prism, and not only hold X Prism, but they have committed it to a special like vault that you can think of it like loyalty points. So these loyalty points are amps. They don't have any kind of lock, but if you decide you don't want to amp anymore, you decide to remove your X Prism from this vault, everything resets. And the way that we've kind of designed it, it kind of gives you like almost FOMO that like, oh man, like I've been, committed for like almost 2 months now. Do I really want to leave? Oh, I don't know. And then if you do leave, there's no way that you can get it back. There's no way you can like pre-commit. You have to come in and just wait the full amount of time again to accumulate your boost. And let me see. So yeah, so like once you've pledged your X Prism, you're starting to accumulate these boosts over time, and your share of the Prism farm now really depends on not only how much Y Luna you've participated in, how much you've committed to our TVL to essentially farm our tokens, but how much of our governance token are you actually holding, right? So now you have like this cross-pollination effect where the more amps you hold, the more Prism you earn. And it's created this, I think, very positive flywheel effect where people are just claiming, earning their Prism tokens and repledging it and recycling it just to earn more and more and more. And yeah, I think that they've seen that if they don't do this, then their boosts compared to everyone else will start to decrease. And we made it very clear on our UI that you're earning some amount of boost. Everyone is earning this base APR. You're earning some amount of boost, and this is what the average person is earning. Now, do you want to be average? No one wants to be average, right? So this kind of like incentivizes you to hold more Prism or to buy more Prism to essentially try to at least be ahead of the average or median person. Yeah, and then another cool thing that happens from this is that even if you don't do anything and a whale decides like, oh, they're done, they don't want to participate anymore, and they unstake, because they unstake their X Prism, then everyone else's boost will increase. So it creates this like counter-cyclical effect where like if you leave and if another person leaves, then this boost number just keeps going up and up and up to a point where people decide like, oh, it's good enough that I want to stick around and I want to stay. Yeah, so like in a nutshell, that's like kind of what we've done for our 2 month long, how far we've gotten in like 2 months, and how we set up like some of our tokenomics and some of our yield opportunities and what we've been able to accomplish so far. But man, there's just so much more to do in our ecosystem with DeFi and just the tokens on, just on Terra. Let me see. Is Prism the first DeFi protocol to intro? So there's actually there are other protocols on like Avalanche or on Ethereum that have done like the splitting of tokens, but they've always done them in fixed terms first. And we've done them more in like a perpetual way first. And maturities is something that's definitely on our roadmap. I think some of the other ones out there are like Pendo Finance or Element Finance. I think Element Finance is the one that didn't get too much traction. They kind of struggled a bit with, maybe it was like marketing or maybe it was messaging. But they've been around for quite a while, but they haven't been able to attract as much TVL as we have with Prism and on the Terra ecosystem. The other one, I think, like Pendo has been quite successful on the Avalanche ecosystem and has like quite a bit of TVL and swap volumes, like exactly what we want to strive for in the future as well. But yeah, like in the near term, some of the things that are on our roadmap is being able to refract some of the tokens uh, from Anchor. Can you share more about? Yeah, okay, let's see. So I think traditionally, like right now, if you wanted to participate in, say, um, in some of the yield opportunities or NFTs or um, like varying DeFi protocols, you always have to kind of like make a choice, right? Like in the video that we saw earlier. Yeah, definitely. Feel free to just like jump in and ask me anything. Yeah, so one of the things was you always kind of had to make a choice, like, oh, do I want to stake my Terra, my Luna on like Terra Station, and I have to, I'll get the yield, but then if I wanted to do anything else with it later on, like I have to wait 21 days to unstake. Like that kind of sucks. Like 21 days is so long in crypto. So like when you're able to refract your proof of stake token like Luna, you no longer have to choose. You can both of your tokens are liquid now. You can, stake your Y Luna when you want to. You can trade the P token, the P Luna, do whatever you want with it. You can sell it. You can, provide liquidity with it. One of the things that we wanted to do is like allow people to use it as collateral. It just gives you more utility, more composability, and just like more interesting use cases than just your regular um, proof of stake token, right? Like literally the sky's the limit. And one of the things that makes me like super interested about like the possibilities, like all the collaborations that we can do. And I've got some, I think, on the next slide as well. Let's see, you can always use stake Luna, B Luna, and there's still equivalent to swap 2 for instance staking. Yeah, that's true. Like, yeah, you can use stake Luna as like the like as a liquid staking token, right? And I think for staked Luna, it auto compounds. For B Luna, you can go and accept the UST later on. And they do have limited use cases. Like, oh, there's also like Luna X, right? You can use that as collateral. But the I think the unique part of it is that you can do two things at once with initially what was only one token, right? Like you can have your yield off doing something. One of the things that we want to do is like create NFTs that allowed you to trade using P Luna. I think like in the past, one of the things that I always kind of struggled with was like, oh yeah, there's this new this new NFT drop. Where am I gonna find the Luna? Like I never have naked Luna lying around. It's always like staked. It's always like earning yield. It's like in some other form other than naked Luna that I would need to go buy NFTs with. Um, and if I was able to use P Luna as like a currency to trade NFTs, I could always have my Y Luna off farming. I could always have it, staked, doing something, earning yield, while I use the principal component to go and trade NFTs and try to make a buck or do something with it. So just like a couple of different ways where, yeah, it just gives you way more options versus having one liquid staked token such as like staked Luna, B Luna, or Luna X. Oh yeah, so why would they prefer earning Prism over earning UST or Luna? So right now, we offer essentially like the best single-sided staking yield for Luna at the moment, right? So I think with staked Luna, you're getting maybe like 7, 8%. Same thing with Luna X. Even with like N Luna from Nexus Protocol, it's like roughly around 8%. But if you come to the Prism farm, you refract some Luna and use Y Luna in our Prism farm, you're earning 19.5% base APR. That's like if you don't have any Prism X Prism, right? But if you do have Prism X Prism, now all of a sudden you're earning 33% on your Y Luna, or your Luna staking yield, that's like 3 times better uh, than yeah, any other location. Can I share some pros and cons about building on Terra? Um, I think one of the cool things about building on Terra is like how collaborative everyone is, right? Like the whole point of like the Terra Luna ecosystem is that, we want to expand use cases for UST, expand use cases for Luna. And we don't really have a lot of conviction towards maybe like rivalries. Um, so everyone is just like kind of in it together, right? And like there's this definitely this feeling of camaraderie and everyone just like wanting to help and collaborate with each other. I think that's awesome. And it's been just like a ton of fun. I think one of the cons about building on Terra is like our limited resources. Because we use Rust, Cousin was on Rust to develop our smart contracts. Um, between 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 us and Solana, of course, there's like these other Cosmos zones. I think the rate at which we can develop is much slower than some of the other EVM like compatible chains. And I think there's more degens on some of these other chains like AVAX or like I don't know upcoming near or yeah, just like these other L1 chains. There's just like more degens. And even though when I look, over at these other chains and some of these other ecosystems, maybe they're not doing anything interesting. They're just like forking the same old protocols on Ethereum, but they're able to attract just as much TVL as us, if not more. Um, yeah, just for like, copy and pasting something from Ethereum, putting it into another chain, and then, printing another token. But yeah, thank you guys for the questions. Um, yeah, if you have any more, just like shoot them in the chat. Happy to answer any of them. And then yeah, just to get back to the future roadmap stuff, like yeah, we plan on refracting all of the Anchor Protocol B assets. Like we've got what are the ones that we have now? Of course, like we're already doing Luna. We've got BE that has a big TVL on Anchor. There's wrapped staked AVAX, and then we've got Atom as well, right? So we want to be able to refract all those assets, allow people to trade the perpetuals, stake them, you name it. Other than the Anchor B assets, oh man, we've got in the Cosmos zone, we've got so many other like proof of stake tokens that could use liquid staking. You've got Juno, Osmo, Evmos is apparently launching again next week. Yeah, there's just like quite a bit of quite a bit ahead of us. And then like in the video that kind of was alluded to, and then like I mentioned, Element Finance and Pendle Finance, they're doing some maturities. Like we also want to do maturities. So like say you can sell, you can refract some AUST and you can, have it expire in 12 months. And you can bet on whether or not you think the yields will increase, the yields will decrease, whether you want the money now or whether you're willing to wait for the money. So yeah, you can sell your P token and speculate more on the yield, or you can sell the yield token and speculate, more on the principal if you're willing to wait out the, whatever term it is. And this really allows like lots of different trading opportunities for different types of folks who have different types of, use cases and risk profiles. Another thing that's going to be like really interesting, something that's really heated on the entire ecosystem right now is like refracting governance tokens, right? Like or like sorry, the Ash report like wars is like apparently raging on the Terra ecosystem. We've got like 4 or 5 protocols all wanting to like hold on to these Ash report tokens in preparation for this looming liquidity war that's supposed to happen on the Terra ecosystem. And one of the things that we wanted to do to kind of like add some spice into I guess the narrative is to be able to refract these governance tokens. So I think you're like, maybe if you're familiar with Anchor, like the Anchor governance token, if you stake it, you earn some governance yield. But also you can vote on some of the proposals, right? Like there have been some spicy proposals that have come up regarding like the Anchor yield, if like you should, what the yield should be, if you should hold Anchor, if you should lock it, if you can, a bunch of things. And I think it was like the first time that people felt the value of what it means to vote and for like certain proposals, right? Before, I think maybe people didn't really care that much, but now all of a sudden, oh, you're like touching my beloved 19.5% yield from Anchor. Like, no way, I'm like voting against this. And it was contentious seeing like people buying up the Anchor token to vote for a certain proposal to go one way or the other. So yeah, with Prism, we're able to refract this. Um, yeah, we're able to refract this these governance tokens, and you can say, okay, I just want the yield of this governance token, or hey, like I care about like voting, I care about these proposals, and I want to have like a larger say in what happens. So now you can really put a price on what governance power means to the ecosystem. And then some of the other ones that we wanted to do is like refracting LP tokens as well. So like if you're providing LP for, say, a pair on Astroport, like just like for example, like let's say you're doing like the B Luna LP pair on Astroport. Um, if we split that, LP token, you're going to be able to receive, or the yield token, the yield side of that token is going to be able to receive swap fees in the form of B Luna, in the form of Luna. We'd like to be able to also offer you the UST that you're supposed to be able to claim. You should be able to get your Astro incentives for providing liquidity for that pair. And we expect like the principal side of that token to be very, very cheap, right? Like, why would you want the principal side of the token when the yield token has all the utility and it has all of the essentially interesting like yield and all the other tokens coming to it? Well, if you're like, if you're the Astroport Labs or the foundation, you want to buy up these cheap PLP tokens because you're locking in all this liquidity into your protocol at just a fraction of the price. But yeah, so those are some of the things that coming up on like we wanted to do in our roadmap alone. But there's like all these interesting collaborations that we're also eyeing, and there's definitely like alpha riddled in these collabs. So like one of the things that I mentioned earlier was like, oh, we want to be able to provide utility for our tokens in the form of collateral. So with Edge Protocol, it'll allow Prism to have its very own money market. If you guys are familiar with like Rari Fuse, it essentially is a money market where anyone can have a money market and anyone can come and supply, borrow, and just leverage on their tokens. So we want to be able to enable folks to, supply P Luna, borrow UST against it, and never lose full exposure to their entire Luna, but give them an opportunity to go, spend some money against their Luna and P Luna holdings. Cool message. How about a cross-chain feature? Is building your own bridge also part of the roadmap? We're probably not going to build our own bridge. Like I think there's plenty of like nice bridges from the Terra ecosystem over to some of the other chains. But definitely alpha is that we're eyeing some other L1s that we might want to expand to also refract assets natively on their chain. So the kind of blocker that we have there is like, which foundation, which blockchain is going to, incentivize us to come and build over there, maybe provide us with resources or even like token incentives to essentially, put our manpower energy over there and start refracting cross chain as well. Another collaboration that I'm really looking forward to is like Mars Protocol. Mars Protocol is doing something super interesting on the Terra ecosystem. Yeah, it's also like a money market similar to Edge, but they're doing something which is called under collateralized, like they call it the fields of Mars, which enables under collateralized lending. Most of the time, in DeFi, to be trustless, you have to provide more collateral um, than you borrow, right? But with Mars, with the way that they can vet contracts or they can vet risks, they can they can let you borrow um, more tokens than you offered as collateral. Like, for example, I can provide one Luna to Mars and I say, hey, Mars, like, I want to use that one Luna and I want to use it on Prism and I want to use it on the Y Luna staking contract, right? And Mars will say, okay, cool. Like, we're familiar with the Prism Y Luna staking contract. We know the risk. We can offer you, we'll let you borrow three more Luna against your one Luna. So now you can have four Luna go and farm in the like the Y Luna staking on Prism, and you can earn three times more yield than you would have if you were just by yourself. This is something that I'm super, super interested in. I think that it's going to bring a ton of more Luna that's going to get refracted, a ton of more TVL um, to our protocol. And for Mars, like they need like more borrowers essentially. Like right now, they have so much Luna in their protocol. The borrow rates for Luna is super cheap on Mars. So I think this is like a great win-win collaboration for both of us. I guess like the one that I wanted to kind of end on is like kinetic money, and like there's tons more like imagining and scheming that we can do. But the coolest thing recently that I've been thinking about is kinetic money. They've just launched. They had like some like a bit of a bumpy few days, but they're fully operational now. And if you guys aren't familiar with kinetic money, they're similar to Alchemix from Ethereum, but built on Terra. So they'll allow you to deposit UST, borrow a synthetic stablecoin against it, and essentially this loan that you get from them is automatically repaying itself off. So their tagline is like, "Oh, we're tokenizing your future yield," right? So usually a user will enter into the protocol or like enter into Anchor and say like, okay, I give Anchor, $100, 100 UST, and at the end of the year, I'll have earned 20 UST, right? You have to wait a whole 365 days to get 20 UST in yield. But what Kinetic is saying is like, hey, you know what? We'll give you your yield up front. You just have to, keep your UST with us, but we'll give you all your yield up front. So day one, you can deposit 100 UST and you can get immediately a loan for 50K UST, right? And do whatever you want with it. And that your collateral, your 100 UST goes off and works on Anchor and pays off your loan automatically. Honestly, it's amazing. Kind of seems like magic to me. And it's like one of the first things that got me super excited when I learned about it in the DeFi world. Um, as far as like how it relates to Prism, one of the things that we could do is essentially allow users to stake their Y Luna inside Kinetic. And when the staking yields come back from the Y Luna, it can be swapped to KUST, or it could all the staking yields can be burned for UST to quickly repay back your loan. So Kinetic Money is already offering you like super great rates. It's like 35% APY, APR on your UST. So your 50% loan to value position would pay itself off in roughly like a year and a half, like 18 months. But one of the ideas that I was positing is like if you staked like a whole bunch of Y Luna inside Kinetic, it could pay off your loan super, 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 super fast, right? Like you could, I don't know, like it could pay off a 50% loan, maybe depending on like your position, you could pay it off in like, I don't know, a month or something, 30 days. Like it would just be insane. Like you never have to sell. You don't have to worry about being liquidated. They don't even charge interest. It's just like what the heck, man? There's like nothing like this in the real world. Like we're so blessed to have some of these innovations in the world of DeFi. But yeah, so like I know like I just chatted and like rambled on like quite a bit about a bunch of collaborations and future roadmap bits, and a lot of that hopefully will come true pretty soon, but maybe we'll see. But yeah, like definitely tons of alpha riddled about in there. But yeah, that's all for me, and I hope you guys learned something, had some fun, and thanks for inviting me to come speak. I'll just like give a moment for folks to um, put some questions in the chat if they have any. Cool, let's see. Why would someone be interested in buying P Luna if thinking about native Luna for direct exposure? Those who probably need P Luna are those who sold off their Y Luna to exit their position in Prism. Still not very convinced about the value proposition in P Luna. If I want to buy an NFT, why will I accept P Luna? Where can I just accept Luna? Yeah, I guess, yeah, no, that's totally true. So I think right now, like for P Luna, because we have limited utility, a lot of the utility currently it resides with Y Luna. Currently, P Luna right now is being normally just held by people who have refracted. And then there are people who are actively like trading the charts with P Luna. There's like a range that they might buy in. Like I think like some people were able to get it at like $11 or something like that, and they're able to sell it at a little bit more than $20. But for the most part, actually P Luna is like pretty stable. It ranges in between like 15 to $20. Um, and yeah, like if they were in a position where they sold their P Luna for Y Luna, and now they wanted to exit, they would probably either slowly exit through like the pools if they didn't feel like buying P Luna again, and getting back their entire Luna and going through the unstaking process. Um, or they could just like keep their Y Luna, and anytime they get yield from regular Y Luna staking or getting it from the Prism farm, they will slowly start accumulating or averaging back into P Luna so they can get back their full their full Luna position. But yeah, and as far as value prop for like NFTs, I think that's definitely still pretty experimental. And we have something coming out in about, I want to say, I think it's about like 2 weeks, 2 weeks from now. We have NFT that is being minted essentially for the folks that participated in our launch phases. And we'll allow them to essentially use P Luna as something that a currency to mint and exchange with on One Planet. So we'll see how this turns out, but I think that's like definitely something experimental. But as far as like the big use cases for P Luna, I think when collateral is enabled on Edge and perhaps even on Mars is when we're going to be seeing some more interesting price action for P Luna. Cool. Any other questions?
Yeah, I think everyone's good for now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, okay. I think today's lunch and learn is quite fantastic today. Yeah, Jimmy, can you share the slides to Yun Han later on so that I can share this to all of them in our group chat?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I can send the PowerPoint to you guys in the Telegram, and you guys can take a look.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, I guess for I guess for folks who kind of want to learn more, we definitely check out our Telegram or our Discord. You can find me on Twitter. We have like a bunch of resources on Notion and tons of threads and a bunch of really activated folks who are doing a lot of like cool data analytics and calculators who are trying to navigate and figure out the best ways to, play within our ecosystem. So yeah, definitely if you have questions, want to scheme, feel free to reach out to me on
Yeah,
Twitter and yeah,
sure.
DM me any future questions you might have.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Jimmy, for your time, and thanks everyone to attend this talk as well. So we'll see you on next Friday. Okay, thank you, Jimmy.
Cool. Thank you guys. See ya.
Yeah,
Bye bye.
thank you. Bye bye.